Hello, everyone, and welcome to this audio podcast. This audio podcast is part of Tubular Bugle edition. This audio podcast is part of a Redacted and a Turbulance. This audio podcast is part of a Bostics Jump Off, and this audio podcast is part of a Storm Bostics production. A sort of an overview, a sort of an overview in around the National Health Service or NHS, or around the NHS. So behind this behind the sort of basis of in around the sort of recognition of the core values and mission of the United Kingdom or UK National Health Service or NHS, and the sort of consequential requirements of today's clinical practices, and the doctors, and the doctors or the physicians or the medics which serve them, forms parts part of this sort of peer reviewed and published works. And so, since its launch in 1948, the NHS had grown to become the world's largest publicly funded health service or healthcare service, and it also one of the most has been one of the most efficient, egalitarian, and comprehensive. The NHS was born out of the sort of the long-held ideal that good healthcare should be available to all, regardless or irrespective of wealth and circumstances, um, regardless or irrespective of personal wealth and circumstances. And the NHS care or National Health Service care offers everything from screening and routine treatments to surgery, accident and emergency treatment, and EOL or end of life sort of practices. So the NHS, around sort of the NHS sort of core or main principles, launched by the then Minister of Health, Aneurin Bevan, in 1948. The NHS was founded on three main principles. Number one, that it meets the needs of everyone. Number two, that it be free at the point of delivery, and number three, that it be based on clinical need. The NHS or National Health Service mission is twofold. Number one, number one, and where number one, and the following are from have been accessible through the NHS or National Health Service sort of website, sort of retrospectively. And so, number one, we believe that patients' needs and experiences are the first and uppermost consideration, and the best outcomes result when patients and carers and relatives and staff are active in decision making. Number two, we believe in the continuous improvement in everything we do, and that staffs dealing with patients and families and each other should be conducted with courtesy, professionalism, integrity, openness, and respect. In around March 2011, the Department of Health published the first NHS constitution, which covers which covered the sort of principles of the NHS and the rights of its patients. Patients' rights embrace how to access health services, the quality care and the quality care patients. The quality that the quality care patients receive, the information, treatments, and programs available to them, and patient confidentiality, and the right to complain. The NHS Constitution is written in consultation, has been written in consultation with professionals and patients, and this should be apparent to all medical applicants, all sort of applicants who should be expected to have a working understanding of what patient care really means. At the same time, quintessentially, medical schools admissions officers need to reflect on these principles in maintaining standards. That draws this audio podcast to a close. There'll be a subsequent audio podcast will look into frameworks and guidelines in around some of the frameworks and guidelines. This has been an audio podcast as part of a Tubular Bugle edition, an audio podcast as part of a Redacted and Turbulance, an audio podcast as part of a Bostics Jump Off, an audio podcast as part of a Storm Robotics production.